Okay, so here is my Bible at the moment. I hope you guys can see clearly. We're going to start with the Old Testament, okay? The Old Testament is pretty self-explanatory, and so we're going to start with a highlighter. So Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, they are all the books of the law. Okay. And again, this was written for the people of Israel, not necessarily for us. Of course, we can take things from it and learn and live by it. They're all good things. But really, the audience of this book was the Jewish people, right? The Israelites. So these are the books of the law we start off with. And so when you read the books of the law, the way you're going to read them, oh, you can't really see them, huh? There you go. See them better, I think. The way you're going to... There you go. Sorry about that. But the way you're going to read them is kind of like reading a textbook, right? You're going to learn from it. It's going to be more factual than anything. Those are the books. Now we go to the books of history of Israel. And we're going to see that mainly from Joshua all the way down to Esther. Which is right. Why can't I find Esther right now? Right there. Oh my goodness. So we're going to read, this is the book of the history basically. You're going to find the kings. You're going to find the judges here. You're going to find them conquering the land of Canaan. You're going to find up to the Davidic line kind of starting. You're going to find the rebuilding and the destruction also of the temple. And so, by the way, when you read the prophets and everything, they all kind of surround the same era. They are not all separated. You know, it doesn't happen like Ezra and then years later Nehemiah. They all kind of happen during the same time. The prophets were all living in the same times. But I digress. So this is the book of history right here. This is the historical books more than anything. Esther is usually combined with Job, but this is the book of history. Now, Job, sometimes people say it's the book of history. Job is one of those books that's kind of on its own, but it is considered a poetic book. Okay. And so the poetic books that we have is Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Songs, or Song of Solomon, sometimes the Bibles say, depending on your interpretation. Now, one thing to note about these books is not only is it poetry, but it's written in different types of poetry. So Job, the book of Job, is written, it's poetry and prose together. Okay. So I'm just going to write that on the side somewhere here. Let's see, right here, right now. So right here, all the way down here, right? So we have the book of Job, and the book of Job is both poetry and prose. Okay. And then we have the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is just prose. Book of Ecclesiastes is written in prose, which is a form of writing, of literature. And then you have Psalms, which is just poetry. And then you have also... sorry, not Psalms. I digress. Proverbs is poetry, and then you have also Psalms, which is songs and poetry combined, right? A lot of the songs that King David wrote at the same time, and they wrote a lot of poetry celebrating his times that he won each battle and everything. And yeah, so let me just move the camera a little bit down a little bit more so that you guys can start actually seeing what I'm writing, because you guys cannot see. All right, so you see that? So far we have law, we have history, we have poetry, and then now we're gonna go to the meaty stuff. Right now the people of Israel are really getting in God's way here. Okay, hope you can still see. So now we're going to have the the major prophets. Major, why? Because they're bigger. Their books are bigger. That's pretty much it. The major prophets are Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations of Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. And then we have Daniel as well. Okay, these are the major prophets. Again, they all prophesied. Some prophesied in Israel, others in Jerusalem. Others were refugees in Babylon, but they all were at the same time, you guys. Okay. And these are the, what did I say? Major prophets. Okay. Again, just because the books are bigger, there's no other really reason for it, and it doesn't make them better. It's just the size of the book. Now we're going to go into minor prophets, which is basically the rest of the Old Testament here. So we have Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. And if you look in, I believe it's Joshua, right here in the history, you can see some of these prophets standing up. Jonah is in the history books as well, in which you never think. Personally, when I read the books, I read them separately, but it's important to know that they're all kind of intertwined. These prophets were all here in the history as well, and they're mentioned in these history books as well. We just don't really think of it, you know, we separate it. So minor prophets, they pack a punch, and yeah, some of them were for Israel, some of them were for Jerusalem. The Israelites were separated at the time, so that has to do with the history. If you read the history of the books, they were separated, and they were dealing with different things, and so different prophets rose up, some of which were in refugee camps as well, like I believe Ezekiel was, right, and Daniel and all of them. So anyways, this is the Old Testament. Can you see it? Minor prophets right there. So that is the Old Testament. Let me zoom out for you to be able to see it better. We're going to go into the New Testament now.